Welcome to Fuller Expectations, the podcast where we dive into topics like aging with confidence, navigating identity shifts, building new healthy habits, rediscovering purpose, health and wellness routines in midlife, and yes, maybe even money, retirement, relationships, and letting go of things that no longer serve you. I'm your host, Carrie Fuller, and I am so excited that you're here with me today. My hope is that our episodes feel like a blend of personal growth, real conversation, and gentle encouragement. We'll keep things honest, thoughtful, and practical. If you have not already, please hit follow so that our podcast can appear in your podcast library. We drop episodes every week, and we don't want you to miss it. And if you thought of somebody who might benefit by what you've heard today, please share this episode with them. And now let's get into today's episode. Hello, Fuller Expectations podcast family. We have an incredible episode for everyone listening today. If you have ever sat in a doctor's office and felt like you are not being heard, if you have spent months waiting for an appointment for a doctor, only to finally get in and leave with more questions than answers, or if you have been told that your symptoms are stress-related or due to aging or hormones, or maybe you even heard, like some other friends of mine, that your symptoms are all in your head when you know deep down that something with your body is not right. If you have any of these thoughts or experiences, or you know somebody who has, maybe you're trying to help navigate healthcare for a friend or a family member, this episode is for you. And honestly, if you've never faced a chronic illness, this conversation is about something that all of us will encounter at some point in our lives. We just will. It's the sad truth. It's that the search for hope has to be there when the path forward is not clear to you. Today, I am joined by a guest, Rebecca Tibball. She is a former teacher whose life was dramatically altered by Lyme disease. And like so many people struggling with chronic health issues, Rebecca found herself navigating a frustrating maze of symptoms, of appointments, of uncertainty, and the feeling that she still wasn't getting the answers that she desperately needed. She was spending time and money on literally everything to help her feel better, to help her be the wife and the mother and the coworker and the friend that she wanted to be. But what happened for Rebecca next changed the course of her life. Through her own search for healing, Rebecca discovered biomagnetism. It's a modality that she credits with helping reclaim her health, her energy, and ultimately her future. It not only transformed her own life, but it inspired her to actually become a biomagnetic pair therapist and create her own practice, Pathway to Wellness. And in here, she now helps others who may be facing similar struggles with not only Lyme or other chronic illnesses, but think about COVID and what long COVID is doing to people. If you are experiencing symptoms from COVID that just keep coming back and then they leave and then they come back, or you know somebody that has, you have to share this episode with them. Today, we're talking about chronic illness. We're also talking about resilience, and we're talking about alternative paths to wellness, learning how to advocate for yourself, and what can happen when you refuse to give up on finding answers. So again, whether you're navigating a health challenge yourself or supporting someone you love who is, or you're simply just curious about the many paths that people take in pursuit of healing, I think you're going to find this conversation both fascinating and inspiring. So please join me in welcoming Rebecca Tibball to Fuller Expectations podcast. Hi, Rebecca. Thanks so much for joining us on Fuller Expectations. We're super excited to have you. You have such an interesting story that I think our listeners will really get a lot out of. So thank you so much for saying yes.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to share my journey, and hopefully it gives hope to others who have been in my shoes or experiencing similar things. So I appreciate it.
Beautiful. So let's start a little bit with your background and tell us a little bit about who you were before Lyme disease entered your life, which totally changed your life,
Yeah,
right?
changed it for the best. But yeah, I was a mom, a wife, I was a teacher. Teaching was something that I think I always wanted to do from an early age. I did go into college to be a nurse, and it's so funny because at that time I wasn't ready for that field of work. I was struggling with test taking and the studying aspect of being a nurse. So I ended up going back to school and becoming a teacher, and I thrived in that. I was, a mom to a young child. I fell ill and it turned my entire world upside down. Teaching had to be put on the back burner. I still had to be a mom and a wife, but I was not the best at that time until we figured out what was going on.
And what did you love most about teaching?
I think for me, I was always a student who struggled in school. Special ed wasn't really a thing when I was little, but I remember always being pulled into like little classrooms independently or having to do summer school. And I always struggled.
Mm.
For me, being an adult, I thrived in teaching. Like my grades in college were the best they'd ever been. I finally found my niche. And then working with kids who had the same learning issues that I did and seeing them finally get it, like the light bulb clicking, was the most gratifying thing. And knowing that I struggled like them as an adult, I could hopefully make a difference for them as they got older and moved on to, middle school, high school. And I'm going to a graduation this Friday for some of my kids that are now excelling. And I saw them in fourth grade and they didn't know what they wanted to do and they were troublemakers. And now they're like, they're thriving. And I like to think that I had a little piece of that with them becoming adults.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And back then, did wellness and holistic health play any kind of a role in your life?
I grew up with a mother and a grandmother who were both nurses. So I always had that medical want in my body. Like I loved going to hospitals and seeing all the behind the scenes stuff. But like I said, the schooling was really difficult for me. But now as an adult, I realized that a lot of my illness too stemmed from when I was little. And that was a huge piece of why I had learning disabilities. During my journey of trying to find out what was wrong with me, I did go to a lot of holistic doctors, naturopaths. And as we talk later on about my journey, you'll see that that type of medical intervention is what got me better as opposed to Western medicine.
Let's talk a little bit about that journey with Lyme disease.
Yep.
When did you first realize that something wasn't right?
My journey started back when I was in first grade, where we had a house in Cape Cod and pulling ticks off of ourselves, our dogs, was kind of a competition. Like, oh my God, how many ticks did you pull off today? And when I was in first grade, my mom found a tick behind my ear. And within 5 days, I was rushed to the hospital with high fever of 105, the most excruciating headache. I had weird rashes on my tongue, and the hospital and my pediatrician kind of had an inkling that it was Rocky Mountain spotted fever, which was not a familiar co-infection within the Northeast. It was more, Rocky Mountains. So they had to send in the CDC, and I had to be barricaded in a room. I was in the hospital for over 2 weeks, and it was tick-borne infection. And come to find out, that infection stayed in my body for years. And in my 20s, I always had exhaustion issues. If I would exercise, my adrenals would crash and I would be sick for a week and no one could figure it out. And then I got diagnosed with thyroid issues. And it's kind of like little things would just happen that weren't normal. And I knew I didn't feel right, but no one could tell me. I couldn't lose weight. I was overweight. My friends would exercise. They would lose 10 pounds. I'd gain 10 pounds. Like my body just was not cooperating. And then
Mm.
about 11 years ago, I had a back injury, which no one could figure out at my age how my back was this bad. And that was the turning point for everything.
Okay, I'm sure there's so many people that can relate to what you're saying. Let's talk a little bit about how Lyme disease impacted you, like emotionally, obviously physically. You just talked a little bit about that, but mentally too. That had to be really hard.
It was. I ended up needing spinal fusion surgery. I was at the point where I was teaching, but my back was so bad that I could not work. So I had to be pulled from teaching because I could not literally walk across a room. When I ended up finally getting approved for the surgery and having the surgery, I literally woke up from that surgery neurologically disabled, not just from the back. My back was great, but when I woke up, they couldn't give me pain medication. My body was not allowing me to have it. I had, again, the worst headache I've had in my entire life. They couldn't get me out of bed to do physical therapy because I had vertigo so badly. I would look at the wall and the clock and the paintings were like melting down the wall. They could not figure it out. I had to leave the hospital on extra strength Tylenol, which they said they've never done or given to somebody with the extensive surgery that I had. So, leaving the hospital, the day I left, I had my first full-blown vertigo attack, which literally debilitated me. My mom was staying with us because the surgery was so extensive, and I was living with vertigo, visual sensitivity to light, sound sensitivity. My son would drop a Lego like this big, and I literally would have to go into my bedroom and put headphones on. And like everything was like that fight or flight. My body neurologically was so messed up. We ended up talking to my surgeon, who thought maybe just being inverted on the table for 7 hours threw off my equilibrium. Nope. What ended up happening was it took me 14 months to find a doctor that could give me a diagnosis. I was diagnosed within that 14 months of having bipolar disease, Meniere's disease, ocular migraines, panic and anxiety disorder, which was obviously created from the Lyme disease. But my chiropractor, who I saw was a new person, said to me, "It sounds like you have Lyme disease. You need to find a Lyme literate doctor." So I ended up finding one. This was in May when I started with him. He worked a lot on my neurological stuff, but I ended up getting into a Lyme literate doctor that following October. And the first thing he said to me was, "Did you know that Lyme disease likes to harvest in the lower back?" And I was like, "Just had spinal fusion surgery." So the gist is the Lyme was in my lower back for years and years and years, harboring, wreaking its havoc. And when they cut me open for the spinal fusion surgery, it was in my spinal fluid, which then traveled through my spinal cord to my brain, and I became neurologically disabled. Yep.
So everything that you went through from the time you were younger and all of this happened in your history with ticks and everything like that, they never linked it to
No,
Lyme?
no, because tests came back negative, as they usually do, unless you have a current present infection where the antibodies are currently present. And with Lyme disease, I like to say the disease is so smart that it knows to kind of hide those antibodies. The spirochete, the bacteria likes to dig itself into muscles and tissues and create biofilm. So Lyme likes the perfect storm. So when you're feeling really healthy and the body knows it's healthy, that's when it likes to come out and wreak its havoc. And what happened was, I think because I was going through all of these things as an adult, just hormonally changing, right? Getting married, having a child, that was the perfect storm for my body to be like, okay, it's in a weak spot right now. Let's come out. So I would have all these like random symptoms and no one could tell me what it was, but it was the Lyme just slowly making its way out and affecting different organs, different functions of the body. So even though I was healthy, I really was not healthy. Like I felt awful all the time, but no one could pinpoint what it was. Oh, it's your thyroid. It's, your adrenals. You're working out too hard, or you're a little overweight. You're not eating the best of food. So it was just like a layering. Okay, let's throw on a thyroid medication. Let's give you antidepressant medication. And it was the
Mhm.
Lyme disease the whole time.
There's a big misunderstanding about chronic illness, maybe Lyme disease too. And I feel
Yeah.
like healthcare today is so scary anyway. It's hard to get a diagnosis for anything. But what do you think that people misunderstand the most when
Well,
somebody is chronically ill or?
I think too with Lyme disease is it has been pushed to the side a lot by the CDC, right? They have specific testing like the Western blot. You have to have 5 positive strains to be positive for Lyme, and that's not correct. And for someone like myself, who the disease was in my body for so many years, healthcare professionals were not trained in this disease. You get a bite. Oh, here, let me give you two doxycycline pills and you'll be on your way, which is not right. People need like 4 to 6 weeks of antibiotics if they get one bite. So there's a lot of dismissiveness. And what ends up happening is the disease then starts to replicate in the body. It starts to bring out maybe viruses. Say you were a child that had strep throat or mono or Epstein-Barr. What happens is the Lyme disease will then exacerbate all of those other things. So you have dozens of different symptoms of different things going on. So during my initial diagnosis, a lot of it's clinical based on symptoms and functional markers and how I presented in my physical. Like I had to do balance testing, all of this stuff. You have to find somebody who believes in you
Mm.
and know that it's possible. And now it's coming out that there's chronic Lyme, like there's chronic COVID and post COVID. And these bacterias are so smart that they know to attack the weakest areas in the body. And doctors, I think, are just masking the symptoms and not getting to the root cause. And that's what I do in my job. I find the root cause because you can mask a sore throat, you can mask anxiety, right, with an anxiety medication, but find out why the person's having anxiety, find out why they're getting stomach aches, headaches, visual issues. So it's very discouraging that the medical field, who is supposed to be on our side and find the cause of illness with this disease and a lot of chronic illnesses, it's just kind of covered up and masked over with medications.
That's so true.
My diagnosis was my blood work. I had like 20 vials of blood, and it was sent to Stony Brook in New York, who specializes in Lyme disease testing. And I finally got my first positive test back. But for me, it was like more of in normal blood work, it was my mono levels were so high, but it was mono that I had when I was a kid, but being exacerbated now where I couldn't even get out of bed. So
Mm.
it's funny to see that like I had all of these infections that my body was able to suppress because I was somewhat healthy. But once the Lyme disease came to the head, everything came out rampant. So it
Mm.
was like I couldn't, it's like a layer after layer after layer after layer, and no doctor can like get to the bottom of it because there's so many layers.
Yeah, I didn't even realize that that happened, like that it exacerbated other health issues
Oh
that a
yeah.
person might have.
It's currently like right now in my practice, I'm finding a lot of people that either have long haul Lyme disease or chronic Lyme or chronic COVID, post COVID. So many of their childhood illnesses or childhood traumas are being pulled to the surface with these infections. So
Yeah.
not only are they dealing with the Lyme disease or the post COVID, but now they're dealing with that Epstein-Barr that's been suppressed, or strep, or mold toxicity, heavy metals, like all of these things that have been layered in our body are now not able to fight because our immune system is just battling so many different things at the same time.
It created a turning point for you in your life, and we're going to talk about that. At what point did you begin exploring alternative healing methods, and it sort of led you to where you are today?
Yeah. So when I had to eventually resign from teaching, which was probably one of the hardest things that I had to do, and not only being sick and bedridden for months or housebound, or as someone who's chronically ill, I always say you become the disease. So you go out with friends. How are you? Oh, I have Lyme. And you become this person who isn't fun to be around anymore. You don't want to go out in public because you don't know when you're going to have a flare or you're going to feel awful, and it destroys everything that you have in that present moment. So for me, because I was a teacher, I really got involved in advocating. Even though I was so deathly ill, I did a lot of work for Senator Blumenthal. I ended up going to Washington, D.C. with Allie Hilfiger and Alex Cohen to get a bill passed to help Lyme disease become more prevalent and for doctors to see it and insurance companies to see that it's like a real thing. So that kind of helped me get out of the feeling sorry for myself that I lost my job, but also trying to find different methods to get me better. Antibiotics killed me. I was on them for a month, and my husband came home one day and I could not even get up to go to the bathroom. He had to carry me, and he was like, Rebecca, no more. I lost 50 pounds, couldn't eat. So that started the path, just connecting with different people in the Lyme disease community, going to different doctors. After antibiotics, I moved towards that naturopathic route, like natural remedies, and everything kicked my rear end. Anything naturopathic, homeopathic just killed me. I did rifing, which is frequency therapy. I did bee stinging. I stung myself for 2 years and did bee venom therapy, where I had a hive in my backyard, and my 10-year-old son is stinging me 3 times a week down my spine of my back. And when I tell you I spent thousands and thousands of dollars on homeopathic remedies, supplements, when you're this sick, you will eat dirt if it's going to make you feel better. So if someone said, oh, you have to go travel 1,000 miles to do this and put poison in your body, that's going to, like, you do whatever you need to do. So a friend of mine was working with somebody in the Lyme community who was suffering, and she reached out to me and she was like, so-and-so did biomagnetic therapy in New Hampshire and he's healed of Lyme. He's back to college, back to work, exercising. And I was like, give me her information. She's like, she has a 2-year wait. And I said, I don't care. Like, I will be persistent and I will find a way to get an appointment. So she sent me her information. And when I say God works in mysterious ways, I grew up with this girl. Her mother was my middle school computer teacher. We went to preschool together. So God, like, finally brought the thing to my life that was going to bring me to where I am now. And I reached out to her. And one thing I respected so much about her was she was like, I can't get you in right now. Like, I have people who have been waiting for months and years to see me. She goes, I will find a way when I have an opening to get you in. And literally it took months. And she called me one day and was like, if you can get here by either today or tomorrow by noon, I had a cancellation, like, I can get you in. And I went there and I saw her every 2 weeks for 6 months, and I was healed. And when I tell you healed, I was healed. But she found everything, all the infections, even my Rocky Mountain spotted fever. I forgot to even mention that to her. She was like, that's 40% of your infection. So I had the highest Epstein-Barr levels, highest mono levels she had ever seen on somebody. And when I tell you, I saw her 6 months, every 2 weeks, 12 appointments, healed. And at the end of our session with her, I said, I want to do this. How could I do this? And she goes, you can do it. You're intuitive. And she goes, I'm going to start teaching it. So I went in November 2023 and I took her class and got trained. And I had an office space set up. So from November until June, I started my practice. I was slammed that I went home. And I did go back to teaching during this time, like during the bee stinging. I said to my husband, I go, I'm leaving teaching because I need to do this. This is where my path needs to bring me. And I'm seeing people heal, and that's it. And he gave me my blessing. After 21 years, I resigned from teaching and I opened my practice, and that's where I am. And I am up to date with all my trainings. And now I just got trained in post-COVID, and it's insane how sick people are and they have nowhere to turn to because either the medical society doesn't believe it or they don't have the treatments or protocols to help people. So this
Yeah.
is where the magnets come into play because I'm able to work with the client and their body and their energy to figure out what is going on, and we get to that root cause. So I think for me, it was battling through all of those different modalities of healing to get me to this place. It was 10 years of trying different
Wow.
things.
Wow. Let's talk a little bit about for people who have never heard of it before. Can you explain, because you just said she found certain levels of certain illnesses in your system. How does that work?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
our bodies are all energy. We are mostly energy. The earth is energy. It's magnetic, right? You get to the earth center. It's all magnetic energy. You have an EKG, an MRI. What is it? It's all magnetic energy. So what I'm able to do through the body is muscle test, kinesiology. It's also, I do dowsing with a pendulum. And our bodies are so powerful in terms of energy and magnetic field or force that when I'm working with a client, if you can set the intention with that client and our energy is so strong with each other, I'm able to muscle test and ask the body certain specific questions where the body can give me a yes or no answer. And that's where I'm able to find out, like I will say, does Rebecca have any illness stemming from youth? And the muscle testing would give me a yes. And then she's able to ask the body, or and as well as me, I ask the body questions that will then lead to giving me answers. So our bodies are meant to be balanced, homeostasis. So if we're too acidic or too alkaline, our body can't heal because bacteria, disease, viruses, infections don't like to survive in a balanced environment. So if our body's too off kilter, it's never going to heal. So when I find the areas of illness or dysregulation in the body, the magnet placement is so specific that it brings homeostasis to the body and the infections can no longer survive. So we are able to remove layer after layer of trauma, infection, illness that has accrued in the body since we were born. And the next session, another layer comes to the surface. So we're able to literally knock down the layers of infection and the body becomes stronger. And then the body's immune system kicks in and it can start healing itself.
Wow. So, what was your first experience like when you first went to her? Did you notice anything after that first session?
So that is one thing I think people, when they come to me or when I went to her, you're so desperate for any healing. You want the relief like that. And that's one thing with my clients, I have to say to them, like, you're not necessarily going to feel something right away. It may take 4 to 5 sessions, but they're so desperate to feel better that if they don't feel something the first session, it's kind of like you have to reassure them and give them hope and be like, no, it's going to work. And I know when someone comes in here if I can help them or not. And that's also really beneficial because I will never waste someone's time. If I can't heal them or get them to the point they want to be, I will say, your case is complicated. Like, you may want to go find another doctor, but I give it my all to be able to find what is going on in their body. And I can say like 95% of my clients walk out of here after their first appointment feeling a weight has been lifted because I touch on trauma. I touch on just removing a little illness or infection. And it's like their body has been like a burden has been lifted. So for me, it was more, I felt hope. And I think that's what people need to feel. So I walked out of there so excited. And my appointments were every 2 weeks. Like I couldn't wait to go back because I knew for once I found something that was going to get me better. And not because she told me necessarily, it's because my body told her what was going on. And the things that she found, no one would have found it. Blood work wouldn't have even found it. It's giving our bodies that grace and ability to trust and know that somebody who does biomagnetism can find the root cause and like really like heal. It's a process. And but you know what's nice? It's not just throwing drugs and covering the layers. It's like I'm finding your layers and getting rid of the layers that are making you sick. So it was first created, it was found when the astronauts went to the moon and they came back with one leg shorter than the other. And when they came back from the moon, a doctor was able to place a magnet in the shoe of the shortened leg. And after a year, the leg discrepancy came back to normal. Dr. Goyes, who is one of the main founders of biomagnetism, said, well, yin and yang, you need a positive and a negative. So he placed a pair on the body, negative magnet, positive magnet, and within seconds, the leg discrepancy came right back. So that's how I muscle test. If someone's legs aren't even for me to muscle test, I will place the Goyes pair on the body. And within a second, the feet are even and I'm able to muscle test. So that was the start of it. And then just them doing a lot of trial and error with magnets. And that's how my practitioners, my teachers have done this, months and years of practice on clients, on themselves, to master these magnetic pairs to get the body healed. I work with a lot of children, and children are, I would say, animals and children are the easiest because they have no reservations. They can't come in and say, what you do doesn't work. It's not normal. It's not Western medicine. They just come in with an open mind and they're healed so much quicker. So it's wild. It works.
Wow. I
Sorry.
have not heard of this before you. It's fascinating to me. My brother has long COVID.
Yeah, and that's literally like I just got trained in it right now, the post-COVID. If you could see, it's insane. Our bodies, if you are not everyone is a long hauler. Not everyone has the ability or their bodies don't have the ability to become a long hauler, but COVID has the ability to replicate and mimic other viruses. So this winter, a lot of people were sick with what they thought was the flu or COVID, and nothing came back. It was all negative. That's usually COVID replicating other forms of infections or bacterias. So you may have a flu, it's not contagious because it's replicated. It's wild. And this is what I was going to say before. The way I explain it is, and I use this analogy with children when they come in, it's like a light switch, right? You see the switch, you turn it on, the lights go on, but you don't see all the wiring that leads to that light going on. And that's the same thing as a magnet. It's like I put the magnets on, it's turning the switch and getting the energy going, the magnetic fields going, but you don't see the wiring inside. So I think that's what's hard for people is to see like, oh my God, you're placing a magnet on me, but it's working. And they may get like pulsing or tingling. They may feel freezing. Their stomach starts to growl. So it works. It's the most incredible, powerful modality I've ever seen on myself and with my clients.
Wow. So, what does a typical first session look like?
It's about 2 hours, a little over 2 hours. I make sure my clients are comfortable. We become like family. And I know sometimes people don't always say, like, you need to set your boundaries. But I think because I went through this illness and I know how badly people suffer, I want them to feel comfortable. I don't rush our sessions. It's a time for them to share with me what their experience has been like, good, bad, ugly. We start from when they were children to any illness they had, any trauma they've experienced. I say it's like putting the pieces of a puzzle together by them opening up and sharing and getting an intake of their life and health. It helps me to when I find things on their body, I can kind of connect the pieces together. So the first hour and 15 minutes is just us getting to know each other, them learning my story, me learning their story, them feeling supported. But also, they don't have to share what they don't want to share. Like if they had trauma going on that was very emotionally impacting their life, like they don't have to tell me. I'll end up finding things and they're going to be like, how did you know that? And it's like, because your body shared it with me. So once we get the intake in, then I get them on the table and I start muscle testing and scanning their body, and we have their first session. So the first session is usually not as intense because you don't want to overburden the body with a healing crisis. So your body's literally going to tell me exactly what I treat and what I can't treat that first session because we don't want you feeling horrible. And like I said, they walk out of here and we already feel connected and it's just easy. So when they come back to me, they're already in that comfort level. And something that I also do, which I know I need to kind of set the boundary, is I message my clients day after, a couple days after. How are you feeling? Is there anything I can do to support you? Because it's a different healing journey. And sometimes they may feel really off or feel something that they haven't experienced yet. And I want them to know that it's normal and your body's responding and it's healing. And some days are going to be worse than others, but you have to know that it's like 3 steps ahead, one back, 2 steps
Mm.
forward, another step back. But they're going to start feeling things. For me, it's a very comfortable experience. My room is lightly lit. I play spa music. I have a sound machine of water underneath the bed. Like they come in here and they get relaxed. When I treat them, as the magnets sit on them, I leave the room. I put a weighted blanket, a weighted eye mask, and it's their turn for healing. Everybody's body is different for how long the magnets stay on the body. And the experience is it's just relaxing. And I think I can confirm to them and give them hope that there's light at the end of the tunnel.
And
Yeah.
does this work for basically any kind of like a health condition?
Yeah. I can usually find a lot of ailments. Like I said, I don't diagnose because I'm not a doctor, but I can just say, like, this is where I'm finding a dysregulation. This is where I'm finding there isn't balance in the body. Now, if they come to me with a Lyme disease test that is a positive, like that gives me a basis to start, but I can usually find where the body is not balanced and there's infection going on. So that's one thing. Like I will never discourage my clients from going to a regular doctor, or if they're still seeing somebody like a Lyme literate doctor on the side, but they're not getting the results and they've been referred to me, and I will never discourage them from seeing somebody else. Or, like I said, I do not diagnose because I'm not a doctor, but I'm able to find usually the root cause of what's going on in the body. And people walk out going, and I think that's one of the coolest things. Sometimes I don't love them divulging so much of the stuff, because when I find something and they're like, how did you find that? Or how did you know? It gives them validation, like, holy cow, she knows what she's doing. And my body
Yeah.
is strong and my body's powerful.
Yeah. It's not like that you were prompted by something they said. Yeah.
Yeah, and what I like too is when they come back for a session as well, I have their notes, for every client, I take very detailed notes. I don't like to look at the notes from the previous appointment. I mean, I kind of know what's going on, but I like to rescan the body without looking, because I can't remember what I find on everybody. I'll find the same things that I found last session, and they're like, "Oh my God." And I'm like, but that again, it's more a validation that it's not hoaxy. It's your body is strong. It's like quantum physics, right? Like, how do you explain how we get FaceTime right now or Zoom, or how can we send a message to China and it gets there in 2 seconds? It's the same thing. You can't see it, but it works.
That's a perfect analogy for it.
Yeah, and people with our technology and stuff, we are so AI, right? You can take a picture and say, "Give me blonde hair." And in a matter of 30 seconds, you look like you just had your hair done. So why would me not placing magnets on you and parts of your body that don't work well? How could that not work? So we're very
Yeah.
ahead of the game. And my teacher now, who I call her a genius, Joan Randall, her whole protocol just became the Randall method. She's a pure genius, and she is training people because she's like, this is game-changing, life-changing work, and more people need to be trained in this and be able to help people, because people are dying from post-COVID. They're dying from Lyme disease, and it's not necessarily the infection, but it's the side effects. It's causing heart issues and brain inflammation and
Hmm.
cancer and
Hmm.
vaccination injury. Not that I'm against vaccinations, but it targets the areas the body is weak. So if somebody comes in and they have a weak heart and they get COVID, where's it going to go? It's going to go to the weak area. So that's my job, is to make the body stronger, to be able to push off infection and get the body fighting naturally.
And does this actually cure? Like you said, it cured you of Lyme disease.
I'm going to say that's not my place to say. I
Hmm.
can speak for me. It cured me and healed me. And I have been to many other sessions to rescan my body, and not one Lyme thing has popped up. My Epstein-Barr may come back now and then because it's one of the most transmittable viruses in our country. Like, one of my practitioners said she could sit on a street for 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and just treat Epstein-Barr. So I know for me, if you could have seen me before and now, how could you say I'm not cured? So I don't like to
Yeah.
say cured. I like to say healed, because I can heal people. It doesn't mean that I'm going to cure them of every single ailment, but I'm going to get them pretty damn close and feeling their best life that they can feel. A lot of people's illness have created permanent damage that I can't necessarily heal or cure, but I can take some of the burden off of the body.
And so it's like treating the symptoms.
Yes, instead of
Yeah.
like just throwing a medication on and covering it up and then getting
Yeah.
another symptom because of the one drug, and then you're on another medication. So it's truly, I like to say, I find the root cause, and then we start from the root and we just get to the full bloom of it all.
And do you believe that there's room for both traditional medicine and a complementary wellness approach like this?
I do.
Yeah.
Before any of these types of modalities, naturopathic, whatever, were around, what did we rely on? I still go to regular doctors. I try to go the most natural route possible. But one of my Lyme doctors back in the day, I would have to take Valium because my neurological symptoms were so bad. But I didn't like the stigma of like, oh yeah, let me pop a Valium. And he would say, but Rebecca, It's not a long-term thing. It is to get you through whatever you're going through in this moment. So if you need to take it to neurologically calm you down, take it. It doesn't mean you're going to take it every day for 2 years, but in the moment, yeah, you have to, if you get strep throat, you need an antibiotic. But
Hmm.
I'm here to have that extra tool to help get rid of it. Oh, yeah, there's definitely room for modern medicine, holistic. It's all, yes.
Yeah,
It's a
goes
nice,
hand in hand, really.
yes, it does. You can't
Yeah.
dismiss one for the other, but one may work better for the other person. Someone's body may be beaten down by antibiotics and they may need a gentle approach. That's where I am non-invasive and healing. I can help reduce those symptoms.
And is there a story from within your client base that kind of stands out to you as far as like an inspiration to you?
One of my first clients, I would say they're not social media people. So, and I wanted to post them because it was like if people could see the before and after. I had a man who just had a lot of ailments, Lyme disease, but different childhood body ailments such as bone issues and whatever. He came to me walking in looking like he was 90 years old with a cane, couldn't really shower well because it drained his energy so badly. And I would say within like 3 months, he walked in one day and no cane. He looked like he was like 50 years old. And I was like, oh my God, if that does not speak volumes. Now, does he still have bad days? Yeah, on occasion. But if you could have seen him walk in here and then leave on his last appointment, life changing. I work on animals that I had one dog who had Giardia parasite, and my friend brought the dog twice to the vet. Medication did not touch it. I put the pairs on for Giardia. They sat on the dog for 15 minutes. The dog walked out of my office, had his business outside, worms, everything came out and gone. Went
Oh
back to the
my
doctor. They're like,
gosh.
it's gone. So within that quick of a session, but because the dog had no didn't even, there's no doubt. If you have doubt, I feel like it can take a little bit longer because you're not as open, but kids and animals, they can't question you. I've had hundreds of clients in and out of these doors, and that's how I'm getting my clients. It's like word of mouth. People are healing and they're telling their friends, and that's how my business is growing. I mean, social media, but for me, it's mostly word of mouth. Like, I just got an award for top 3 wellness businesses in this area. And I'm like, oh my God. And that's all based off of just reviews and people sharing their experiences. So
Wow.
it's awesome.
Rebecca, can you share with me what you think if somebody listens to what they hear today and considers it for their life and their experience and something that they might be going through? What do you hope that somebody listening might get out of the conversation today?
That your body is worth the fight. It's worth having hope. You don't have to be stuck in a cycle of illness. You have to be open to other modalities that may not seem so normal or maybe out of something that you grew up knowing to be true or the only way to go. Is that our bodies are so powerful and our bodies do not want to be sick and they have the ability to heal. We just have to give it the space, the time. And my big thing is consistency. If you are consistent with your body will love you, your body will give you grace, and your body will heal.
I love that because there are so many people today that are affected tremendously. And I know in my family too, especially after COVID, with
Yeah.
things that just are not being dealt with. And I think healthcare is overwhelming today. People might not be feeling like they're heard by their doctor. You know, you can go in and talk about what's wrong, and some doctors are great and some doctors just write prescriptions. And so
And
for people listening, yeah, I think it's really important for people to advocate for themselves and keep pushing.
yeah,
Yeah.
and I advocate for them and I push for them, and I like to say I am their hope line. Like I'll have clients message and just be like, give me something positive today because I need your hope and I need your, and that's the thing, like I want people to walk out of here feeling like I'm going to get my life back and I'm going to be able to do what I was doing before, exercising and being active with my kids and living normally.
Mhm.
And it can happen. And I am a true testament that it can happen. And I say this, and I don't like saying this. It's never to offend anybody because I know people suffer, but I'm so thankful I suffered for 10 years because I
Mm.
would never be doing this and I would never be able to heal people the way I'm healing people. And this was my journey. And we all have our journey. And I had one client that I've been seeing the last couple months, and she doesn't understand why she's sick. And I said, because you're going to learn something and you're going to grow from this. And when your time is done and over with being sick, you're going to understand. But you have to be patient and know that you're going to go through some tough things, but the ending is so much bigger and brighter than what you probably even had before you got sick.
I believe that too. I do believe that everything we go through, there's something at the end it's almost like something comes out of it that might change, like you. It changed
Yeah.
the trajectory of your life, really.
And to think
Um,
like 52 years old, I'm almost 52, I am the healthiest, happiest I've ever been in my life. Now, do I wish I had this in my 40s? Yeah, because my 40s were illness, but I feel like I'm 40 again, and I can do it now with a healthy body. And my
yeah.
son can see me healthy, and my husband can enjoy me healthy. Their lives were affected drastically, but it's also made my child who he is today. He's empathetic and loving and caring and respects illness,
Mm,
where if I didn't go through this, who knows, where he'd be or how he would be. There's a level of empathy that my son developed because of this.
wow.
Yeah.
And what
So
does wellness mean to you today?
being free, hopeful, happy, carefree, and not being held prisoner by illness.
Mm,
And I think people that are sick are being held prisoner in their own body and they don't know how to get out. So
yeah.
we have to be the tool and the person that opens that jail for them and lets them out to
Mm.
see that there's something brighter and better.
That's a great segue. What would you say to somebody who feels exhausted, who has been looking for answers, who does not feel good, who feels like they're not getting answers from their physician or from whoever they're seeing?
Give yourself grace. If your body's tired, rest. Don't push your body. Fight for yourself and advocate for yourself. We are the only people that know what we truly feel like, and don't ever let anyone in healthcare, whether it be a doctor or somebody like myself, don't ever let anybody make you feel not believed.
And how important is hope?
When people come in here, you have to have hope. It's not going to happen overnight. You didn't get sick overnight. It probably took you years. So have hope. I'm very honest with them. Like, I think my honesty also gives them hope, because I will never keep you here if I can't treat you, and I will never keep you longer than you need to be here. But know that your body is not against you, it's for you, and your body wants to heal. It just doesn't always have the tools, and your body's overloaded a lot of times with different illnesses, and your body just doesn't know what to do. Your body's fighting as hard as you are.
What are some small things that people can do to become more connected to their health and to their body?
Meditate, grounding, going outside. In this line of work, I've become very intuitive, very mindful in terms of meditating, doing yoga. Like, you want to give your body grace. And when it isn't feeling good, a lot of people have guilt that they have to be active and doing this and cleaning and, oh my God, like my kids, but you're sick, and you over pushing your body or pushing your body too much is going to make you worse. Have grace and give yourself time to rest. Don't feel guilty if you have to go to bed at 7:30. Your body is smarter than we even know, and your body gives us hints when it needs a break. And a
Mm.
lot of people, I think, in this world right now are just so used to having to go, go, go. Our economy, right? People have to work overtime to make more income. Like, they're not giving their bodies the rest it needs. So just have that hope and know that if you listen to your body and you follow your intuition is huge. Listen to your gut. Your body will tell you when things aren't right.
I love this conversation.
Thank you. Me too. I
This
could
is going
talk
to
about
help
it all
so
day.
many. This is just, it's going to help so many people.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I do think this is going to grow more and more, this type of modality, and people need this. I'm so lucky. I literally just finished my post-COVID training last week, and it's mind-blowing. I can work on people that have MS, ALS, brain fog, you name it. It's affecting people, the heart, POTS, the tachycardia. It's just wild. Hormones, everything. It's insane. So people don't have to suffer. They don't have to. but they have to find their way here or to somebody else who does this kind of work, and it's not out there enough. That is part of what I'm trying to do now, is get awareness out there, even by social media and going to health fairs. And I think people have to try it too to believe it. Yeah,
It's amazing.
it's awesome. They're my miracles, I call them. My magnets are my miracles.
I know so many people are suffering today and they just don't know how to get the answers. And this is going to be so helpful to so
Yeah.
many people.
And the thing, which is really neat, and this is where it's hard because I'm not a doctor, but I can find things that like blood work can't. And it's not because I am some genius. It's because your body, the client's body, literally tells me exactly what's going on. The body is more powerful than anybody could ever imagine. The fact that your body can literally tell me by just lifting your feet or using a pendulum what's wrong, it's insane. So
Well, I think this is going to give a lot of people hope.
I hope
And
so.
I wish I realized when my mom was still here,
I
because I
know.
feel like she was getting pushed off and pushed off and pushed off by doctors. And nobody, like, I feel like nobody cared enough to try to figure it out.
Like your mom's defense too, like, or in the medical field's defense, like, I don't even think they knew what to do or how deep this was going to go and how, like, many effects it has on people now. Like, I have family members who have psoriasis now, or have my mom struggles with chronic IBS now, not even just from COVID, but getting the boosters and the vaccines. And it's not that they're bad for some people, but if people have underlying conditions, the vaccinations just, it weakens their body even more. And they're just, it's making their body have to fight something more on top of what they already have. And it's like a recipe for disaster.
Do you have a lot of people that see you because they have issues from COVID after having COVID?
Since I put it out there, I've been slammed with it. But what I love too is the way she's created the Randall method is everyone that has had COVID has some sort of lingering effect. It doesn't mean you have long COVID. It just means your body is fighting something that it replicated, right? So I'm able to then incorporate my Lyme magnetic protocol. Even if you don't necessarily have Lyme, I have heavy metal protocols. I have Epstein-Barr protocols. I have mold protocols. So it's like, even if somebody isn't suffering so much from the COVID piece, the COVID could have brought out mold or lead issues or heavy metal issues that they didn't even know they had. And that's what's happening, is their body has been able to sufficiently fight off. We get strep as a kid. The antibodies don't always go away. Our body just is strong enough to fight it. But when we get inundated with all these different viruses and pathogens, the body can't fight it anymore. So the strep goes, oh my God, the body's weak right now. I'm going to come out and have a party. And then people are like, oh my God, I haven't had sore throat like this since I was a kid. Well, guess what? What's coming up is what you had as a kid. It just was in the bottom of the cup, and now it's coming to the top ready to get treated. It's really amazing. And when I scan and test somebody, after I place all the magnets, I'll say, how many days do they need to come back? And some will say their body will clear in 8 days. So then they come back to me in 12 or 14 days, because within that 8 days and 14 days, that 6-day period, their body is then able to, whatever has been pushed down, that next layer comes up, and I'm able to find it and wipe that layer out.
That's amazing.
It is. It's mind-blowing, mind-boggling, and mind-changing.
What is your website for people listening?
It's pathway, the number 2, wellness, number 11.com.
Awesome.
Yep.
Rebecca, thank you so much for saying yes.
Thank you, Carrie. I'm excited.
This is amazing.
Thanks for listening today. If this episode sparked something in you, please share it with a friend, leave a comment or a review, and reach out and let me know what resonated. Remember, no matter what age or stage of life you're in, you can pivot. And always remember, the second half of life is not a winding down. It's a waking up. Please follow or subscribe. We'd love to have you as part of our podcast family. Let's keep showing up and being the best version of ourselves. Until next time, take care.